Hello, welcome to our Fire Safety webinar. I am Tara DeVore, Autism Training Specialist at the University of Missouri's Thompson Center. Today, I will share with you some helpful tips to prepare your home and your family for a fire emergency. Here's an overview of the topics this video will cover. We will start by reviewing some of the characteristics of autism. Then I will discuss ways to prepare both your home and your family for a fire emergency. Finally, I will share some resources to support your family with fire safety, as well as additional resources available at the Thompson Center. Characteristics of autism. The bolded characteristics on this slide could cause difficulties for autistic individuals in an emergency. Limited communication, lack of understanding of danger, difficulty with impulse control, apparent insensitivity to pain, difficulty with gross motor or physical skills, and inappropriate response or no response to sound. It's understandable why some of those characteristics could cause difficulties for an individual with autism during a fire emergency. For example, a lack of understanding of danger. They might not understand that a fire is dangerous. Difficulty with gross motor or physical skills. They might have difficulty exiting a building if there were a fire. Not everyone with autism has difficulties with all or any of these things. These are just things that might be difficult for some individuals with autism. Preparing the home. When preparing your home for a fire emergency, it's important that you have smoke alarms. You should install smoke alarms on every level of your home, inside bedrooms and outside sleeping areas. Make sure to test smoke alarms frequently. If they are not working, change the batteries. You also want to prepare the child for the sound that the smoke alarm will make when it goes off. Loud noises can sometimes be frightening to children with sensory differences, and that is why it's important to prepare them prior to an event when the sound could happen. Finally, keep a fire extinguisher in the home. A fire extinguisher can help put out a fire in an emergency. It's important to note that cooking is the number one cause of fires and home fire injuries, and having a fire extinguisher in the home during a fire emergency will be very helpful. The next important step for preparing your home is to modify the environment. Start with the areas where your child spends their most time. You want to unplug and put away appliances that are not in use, and make sure that you're storing candles, lighters, matches in locked cabinets that your child cannot easily access. There are examples of different kinds of cabinet locks on this slide. You can get locks that lock your cabinet doors from the outside. You can also get little magnetic locks that have a magnet that will, when you use the magnet, unlock the cabinet. By having those things put away and your child cannot access them, you will limit the potential for a fire emergency. Some more ways to modify your environment are to install outlet covers, locks on your oven doors, and plastic knob covers over the knobs. Make sure to secure any loose wires around your home. You can turn down the temperature on your water heater to make sure that your water does not get too hot to potentially cause a burn. You can also lock doors in specific rooms of your house that might have potential for danger. Our next section is on preparing the family. Make sure your child knows what fire is and why it is dangerous. This is important for all children, not just children with autism. All children need to understand the dangers of fire. Some ways that you can help them to understand are by talking about some of the things listed on this slide. Talk about not touching hot items like burners, candles, food. Be careful not to put items on or inside appliances even when they aren't on. Turning on and off faucets, making sure that the water heater is set at a good temperature and not too high of a temperature. Make sure that they know not to insert items into electrical sockets. Remind them of the dangers of chewing on wires. If you are using a space heater or fireplace in your home, make sure that your child is aware that they are hot and could burn them. Make sure that matches, lighters, and candles are not accessible by your child, and also make sure that they know that those things are fire and dangerous, so if they do come in contact with one of those things, they might be less likely to play with it. And the last one on this slide is barbecue grills. Make sure that your child knows that a barbecue grill is cooking food just like a stove or oven, so they are hot and need to be careful when they are around a barbecue grill. The next thing you should do to prepare your family for a fire emergency is to make a fire escape plan and practice. On this slide, you will see an example of a grid that can be used to create a fire escape plan. On this grid, you can draw your layout of your home to include your doors, windows, and your fire escapes. Make sure when you are drawing your home that you're labeling the rooms so the child can know what each room is when they are looking at it. You can also draw arrows and X's to indicate how a child would leave the home in the case of a fire emergency. It's also important to practice your fire escape plan frequently with your child so they know if there is a fire, this is what we do, and this is where I go if there is a fire. The next step is to teach and practice basic fire safety skills. These are the same skills that we're going to teach to all children and all people for fire safety, but it is important to know that you might have to practice these more frequently with a child with autism just to make sure that they understand how to use these skills if they are needed. The first fire safety skill that we talk about is check the door. Checking a door to see if it is hot before opening it. To do this, you place the back side of your hand, not your palm, the back side on the door. If the door is hot, then you know that the fire is likely very close to the door. This is why you use the back part of your hand, so that way your palm does not get burned when touching the door. If the door is not hot, then you can open the door, getting as low to the ground as possible, and leave the room. Which brings us to our next basic fire safety tip: get low and go. This is the concept of getting as low to the ground as possible to exit your home or building. If you think back to your elementary science days, you will probably remember one very important scientific fact: heat rises. This is why it is so important to get as low to the ground as possible if you are in a fire, because the smoke is going to rise towards the ceiling of the building. Hopefully, the lower you are to the ground, the less likely you are to breathe in the smoke or as much smoke. The next basic fire safety skill is to stop, drop, and roll. If you do have fire on you, if your shirt is on fire, then you want to get that out before you are burned. The way to do that is to stop, drop yourself to the ground, and roll on the floor to put out the fire. The next step for preparing your family is to visit your local fire station. When you plan a visit to your local fire station, children can meet the firefighters who may respond to a fire at their house. They can see firemen in their gear, and the firemen can explain what they do when there is a fire. This will help children not feel scared and to know that when they see a firefighter in their house, they are there to help and not to hurt them. Because with all of their gear on in a fire, it can be very scary for children. Continuing to prepare the family, you want to assign someone in the home to be responsible for the child or adult with autism. The autistic individual may become overwhelmed by the loud sounds, sirens, smoke, etc. that happens in a fire. One family member should be designated to help get the individual to safety. You want to choose one individual because you don't want everyone in the home going to help that person. You want one person to go and help them out. Make sure whoever that person is can stay with the individual once they're outside the home so they do not try to re-enter the home. If a fire occurs in your home, remember to get out, stay out, and call for help. You should never go back inside your home for anything. This slide has an example of a fire safety, how to stay safe social story. It is a great resource to use for children with autism to help them understand what to expect in case of a fire. This will be linked at the end of this presentation. Questions to promote fire safety. Here are some questions that you can talk about with your children and your family to prepare them for fire safety. So some of these questions include, what should you do if there's a fire in your house? How do you know if someone is a firefighter? And who do you call if there is a fire? Important things for everyone to know when preparing for a fire. In addition to keeping your house and family prepared for a fire, it is also important to be aware of the dangers of carbon monoxide. Various fuel-burning appliances and engines produce carbon monoxide. The amount of carbon monoxide produced by these sources usually isn't cause for concern. But if they're used in a closed or partially closed space, like cooking with a charcoal grill indoors, for example, the carbon monoxide can build to dangerous levels. If there is too much carbon monoxide in the air you are breathing, then your body replaces the oxygen in your red blood cells with carbon monoxide. This prevents your organs from getting the oxygen they need. Smoke inhalation during a fire can also cause carbon monoxide poisoning. Signs and symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning may include dull headaches, weakness, dizziness, nausea or vomiting, shortness of breath, confusion, blurred vision, and loss of consciousness. Complications of carbon monoxide poisoning can include heart damage, brain damage, miscarriage, and death. It's important to know that carbon monoxide poisoning cannot be seen, it cannot be smelled, it can't be heard, but it can be stopped by using a carbon monoxide detector. On this slide, there is an example of a carbon monoxide detector. Carbon monoxide detectors, you should put one in the hallway near each sleeping area in your home. Check the batteries every time you check your smoke detector batteries, at least twice a year. If your carbon monoxide detector goes off, then you should leave your house and call 911. Some tips for keeping yourself and your home safe from carbon monoxide. Open your garage doors before starting your car. Never leave your car running in your garage. Be particularly cautious if you have an attached garage. Leaving your car running in a space attached to the rest of your house is never safe, even with the garage door open. Keep fuel-burning appliances properly vented. These include space heaters, charcoal grills, water heaters, fireplaces, and wood-burning stoves. Use gas appliances as recommended. Never use the gas, stove, or oven to heat your home. Don't run a generator in a closed garage or basement. Make sure to keep fireplaces in good repair. Clean your fireplaces and your chimney regularly. Thank you for watching today's webinar. Here are some resources for fire safety that you can access. Here are links for the training library at the Thompson Center, as well as the link to follow us on Facebook to find out about future events. We hope that you will take the time to check out our podcast, Supporting the Spectrum. We release episodes every 2 weeks, and they are available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Finally, I am Tara DeVore. My email is on this slide. If you have any questions about this webinar, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you for joining me today.